Hello, welcome back to our series, Catholic Biblical Apologetics. We're in the last unit of Part 4. Part 4 we entitled Truth Handling and Teaching Authority. And we come to the point who had that authority in the role of Bishop of Rome. So we ask, as we are in this unit, who are the bishops of Rome, and whom we call popes, and how many were there? Let's just get into this. You'll see what I plan on doing. This is not a generally long unit. There isn't a lot to say. I think it speaks for itself. We have in front of us here the official, both secular and religious authorities on who were the successors of St. Peter and their dates. And so I'm going to break this up by centuries and just make some random observations about these. Now, as we approach the list of popes, the question is, how many have there been? Well, it depends on how you ask the question. A lot of people will not include Peter and refer only to his successors. Therefore, there would be 265. If you include Peter and, of course, Benedict XV, there are 266 official. Now, you may also ask the question about those who, the anti-popes or the wannabe. They were easily resolved. While it was a terrible period, sometimes as many as 3 or even 4 popes at the same time, it is so easy to find out in which conclave had which authority and which is valid and legitimate. So those were easily settled. So at 266, we'll begin. Let's look at these popes. In the timeline below the bottom of the slide, you'll see that bar, which is now covering 1st and 2nd centuries, will continue, but we'll also have their dates opposite their names. Now, in this first slide with the 1st and 2nd centuries, beginning with Peter, Linus, I'm not going to read them all, but I emphasize Saint Clement I because this is the one about whom we've spoken, who authored the First Clement, one of the books one of the works we refer to of the Fathers of the Church. It is nice to see that all of these popes on the 1st and 2nd centuries are all saints. In the 3rd and 4th centuries we have another list, and we find one, Liberius. I guess I don't know much about him or why he would not be canonized a saint when all the others seem to have been, but as we said in the last section, Part 4c, that God did not call saints to be popes. In the 5th and 6th centuries, we find a number of saints again, but more and more those who are neither blessed nor are saints. The 7th and 8th centuries, we find the same thing. We find certainly those who are not canonized or blessed to be in the minority now. I'm looking for one of the blessed. I'm not quite sure when the first blessed. Some were declared blessed, but that is as far as they went. Here we are, the 9th and 10th centuries. If you find something like the numerals, remember sometimes they did not always indicate which number they were. That was a much recent convention for remembering who they were, so at times the numbers are confusing. In the Stephen numbers, as you see in the right hand column, there's the whether the Stephen the 7th is the 7th or 8th, and then Stephen the next one, whether he is the 8th or the 9th. That's just a common enumeration error, and it is corrected in this list. This is a definitive list, and it continues here. In the 11th and 12th century, we're going to find very few saints now, if any. I see St. Gregory the VIII, and we have a blessed Victor the III, other blessed Urban the II. But as you can see, in the great majority is the two saint, Leo the IX is there, St. Leo the IX. It is probably indicative of the times, very difficult times for the papacy. In the 13th and 14th centuries, we have St. Celestine V, a couple blesseds, again indicative of the time, but here they are in their names, and all any one can be searched in Google, and you can find their biographies. This is the 15th and 16th century, Here is Saint Pius the Fifth, who was the first pope after the Council of Trent, and to him belongs the origination of the Latin Mass, and any number of things. But there he is. Is he the only saint? Yes, he is the only saint in this group. 17th and 18th centuries. I see one blessed, but no saints at all. The 19th and 20th century, we begin to find some very great saints. Pius X is here. Blessed John the 23rd, our Pope in our own times, and it is growing. And of course, we end with Benedict the 16th, who became Pope in 2005. The charism of infallibility, which we mentioned in part 4c, is also called the Magisterium, and I thought it would be very good if we end this series on truth handling and authority to read from Vatican II, the dogmatic constitution on the Church. And so bear with me, and then we will end part 4. The Vatican Council Fathers wrote, "Bishops, teaching in communion with the Roman Pontiff, are to be respected by all as witnesses to divine and Catholic truth. In matters of faith and morals, remember these are the areas in which not only the Pope but also an ecumenical council can declare infallibly. In matters of faith and morals, the bishops speak in the name of Christ, and the faithful are to accept their teaching and adhere to it with the religious assent of souls." So this religious submission of will and mind must be shown in a special way, first, to the authentic teaching authority of the Roman Pontiff, even when he is not speaking ex cathedra from the very seat, invoking the fact that he is speaking ex cathedra. His supreme magisterium is acknowledged. The judgments made by him must be adhered to, known chiefly from the character of the documents, from his frequent repetition of the same doctrine, and from his manner of speaking. The individual bishops do not enjoy this prerogative of infallibility. They can proclaim Christ's doctrine of infallibility when they are dispersed around the world, maintaining the bond of unity among themselves and with Peter's successor, while teaching authentically on a matter of faith or morals, and they concur in a single viewpoint as the one which must be held. This authority is even more clearly defined when gathered together in an ecumenical council. They are teachers and judges of faith and morals for the universal church. Their definitions must be adhered to with the submission of faith. This infallibility with which the divine Redeemer willed his church to be endowed in the defining of a doctrine of faith or morals, meaning that which must be believed and that which we must do, extends as far as the deposit of divine revelation, which must be religiously guided and faithfully expounded. This is the infallibility which the Roman Pontiff, the head of the College of Bishops, enjoys in virtue of his office when, as the supreme shepherd and teacher of all the faithful, who confirms his brethren in their faith and proclaims the same doctrine of faith or morals. Therefore, his definitions of themselves, and not from the consent of the Church, are justly styled irreformable, for they are pronounced with the assistance of the Holy Spirit, assistance promised to him in Blessed Peter. He has no need for approval of others, nor do we allow an appeal to any other judgment. The Roman Pontiff is not pronouncing judgment as a private person, but rather as the supreme teacher of the universal church, as one in whom the charism, the gift of infallibility of the church herself, is individually present. He is expounding or defending a doctrine of Catholic faith. The infallibility promised to the church resides also in the body of bishops, when that body exercises supreme teaching authority with the successor of Peter. When either the Roman Pontiff or the body of bishops together with him defines a judgment, they pronounce it in accord with revelation itself. Under the guiding light of the Holy Spirit, revelation is thus religiously preserved and faithfully expounded in the Church. The Roman Pontiff and the bishops strive painstakingly and by appropriate means to inquire properly into that revelation and to give apt expression to its contents. They do not allow that there could be any new public revelation pertaining to the divine deposit of truth. All right, this ends part 4D, Truth Handling Authority. Go on now to a fascinating chapter of our series, The Sacraments, in part 5A.